Hey everybody, welcome back to The Pressing Matters. I'm Scott. Thank you for tuning in today. Thank you for your support. Today I'm going to be talking about Bryan Ferry's Mamouna. It is his 9th studio album, his 3rd of all original material. It was released in 1994 in a very limited vinyl edition. It was available only in certain countries, so UK got a vinyl edition at that time. I think one other country or 2 other countries also got vinyl editions, but most of the world got CDs. Finding an original pressing of Mamouna is very expensive these days. And I was waiting and waiting for a beautiful reissue of Mamouna because it is one of Bryan Ferry's most accomplished albums in some ways. I'll describe my impressions of the music, a little bit about my history with Bryan Ferry, what was leading up to this album, and the bonus album that is in this called Horoscope. So stay tuned for that. Before I get started, if you are new and haven't already, please consider subscribing. We are getting towards our goal of 10,000 subscribers. I don't know if we'll reach it by the end of the year, but if everyone who's watching that's not subscribed hits like, subscribe, and notification, I bet we'll get there. So thank you so much for doing that. Really appreciate it. Also, this album and other recommended titles are now listed in my Amazon affiliate storefront. Just go to the description box below. You'll see the Pressing Matters link for Amazon, and you can go there and check out everything that I've recommended. So thank you so much for supporting the channel by doing that. Mamouna was released in 1994. It took 7 years to make this album. Bryan Ferry is a perfectionist. If you know his work from Avalon or Boys and Girls or Bete Noire, you know that he loves to tinker to get the sound he likes. And this is sort of the ultimate expression of that. The cast of musicians on here is immense, but I'm going to name some of the more familiar names to you. Robin Trower also produced this album. So Robin Trower provides guitar for the album here and there. Also, Phil Manzanera is here from Roxy Music, of course. Brian Eno is also on this album and has done a co-write with Ferry for one song and provided his usual touches of electronica. Andy McKay does some sax on this, and Nile Roders is also featured on this album on guitar. So it is a wonderful cast of musicians that contributed to this. Also, you'll find Rhett Davis did some of the programming for this. Rhett Davis was famous for helping with the sound of Avalon and Boys and Girls. So you get a similar sound here. Bob Clearmountain did the mix for this, and Bob Ludwig did the mastering. So it's quite a A-list cast here. The material is very good. Let's take a look at this though. This is the original way we all saw Mamouna. This is the image that graced the CD and the very rare vinyl albums that were around. I love this image. I think it's great. Do I wish that this 2LP set had this on the front? Actually, no. And I'm going to tell you why. I would have liked to seen a single LP done with the original cover for this reissue campaign, but it's a 2-record set, and it includes the working version of the album called Horoscope. I'm going to talk about that in a second. Look at this image. This image is really perfect for this album. If you really look at it and see what's going on, you're going to see that the themes that are covered in this album and many of Bryan Ferry's later albums are all here. You see a beautiful girl dressed for a party or for a club. She's in a club. She's feeling sad. So what I get from this is beauty, fashion, glamour, artifice, decadence, sadness, melancholy, emptiness, living a fast life and maybe finding it's not really all it's cracked up to be. Yeah, there's a sadness about it. And a lot of the themes in this album deal with the same things I'm describing. Fleeting moments of joy, beauty, glamour, yet finding emptiness overall in that type of lifestyle. This is the centerfold. Some beautiful shots of Brian and the girls. He was really looking good, and he was singing great on this album. As I said, the Horoscope album is the working version of the album. It contains many of the same tracks. I think critics at the time this came out were looking for another Boys and Girls, or another Avalon, or something like that. And this album is different from Boys and Girls and Bete Noire in that it doesn't have the strong dance tracks or obvious hit single that those did. This is not trying to do that. This is trying to create a mood, and it does it really, really well. The mood evoked on this cover is carried through all the music on this. It's gorgeous. Don't Want to Know is a very strong track to start off the album. It has a beat. It has some funky stuff going on, but it's sort of like immersed in this dreamy, synthesized kind of background. And that's carries through the whole album. It's all like that. New York City is an urban tale. It's called Desdemona on the working version. It's kind of evokes scoring drugs in New York City. That's kind of what it came across to me as like, kind of a dark urban sort of sound with sound effects as well of sirens and trains going by. The centerpiece of this album to me is Your Painted Smile. There's a video available, an official video that you definitely have to watch. I'll link it below. Once you see that, you'll understand what this album is all about. It is gorgeous. Just his best performance. A wonderful song, great sound, great production, and the video just is not dated whatsoever. It's just beautiful. Excellent song. Sad, but gorgeous. Gorgeous. Mamouna is a somewhat upbeat number, the title track. The Only Face is sort of a nod to Hollywood glamour. It draws references from Garbo, so there's a reference to Grand Hotel, and of course the line "I want to be alone," which is repeated several times throughout this, is one of her famous lines from one of her movies. She's famous for her glamour, her beauty, and her reclusive life after that. Side 2 is mostly strong. It takes a little step down over side 1, I think, but with repeated listenings, I'm drawing more and more out of it. The 39 Steps is a strong opener to track to side 2. Which Way to Turn, I thought, was kind of the weakest track on the album, perhaps, but it's actually used as the opening track on side 1 of Horoscope, so they must have thought more of it, and I need to spend more time with it. Excuse me. Wildcat Days is the co-write with Eno. It's interesting. It didn't stand out to me like I thought a collaboration would, but it was very good. Gemini Moon is a strong one, and Chain Reaction closes the album on a high note. Really, Brian was always very careful about what he chose for a final track, to leave you with the impression of the whole album, to give you the mood of everything in one track. And it does this. Chain Reaction is gorgeous. It features female vocals repeating the chorus, Chain Reaction. And by the time it gets to the end, it's just her voice and a swirl of instruments and sounds that is just so amazing and really encapsulates everything that this album is about, Mamouna. on Horoscope, we get stripped down versions or scaled back versions of Where Do We Go From Here, The Only Face, New York City, which is called Desdemona. We also get 2 tracks that appeared on a later album called Avalon, and that is, here it's called S&M, but it's actually Midnight Train, and Loop de Lis, which is also on that album. Here they sound much more clear and uncluttered. I did a review of Avalon, and I didn't really care for the production of it. It was very dense to the point where it seemed like Bryan Ferry's voice was buried in it. And here you can really hear clearly his voice. So that's a nice eye-opening and ear-opening experience to hear that. Also on side 2, there's another version of Gemini Moon, an album that is independent of any of these. It's called Raga. And I'm sorry, a track that is independent of any of these albums called Raga. And a 9-minute version of Mother of Pearl, which was a Roxy Music track. And here it's done in the style of the electronic funk and so forth. So really a fascinating album in its own. Horoscope is really a nice inclusion as a bonus disc on this. But to me, what I was really looking for is a beautiful edition of Mamouna. And I think this is a great sounding edition. It was pressed very well. It's Abbey Road half-speed mastered. And everything I've gotten through those series has been pressed very well. There was one issue on my copy. I'm going to get a replacement. It was a repeating tick at the last 3 or 4 moments of the closing track. So as everything's winding down and you hear chain reaction being repeated over and over, and then the swirl of sound starts, there's a repeating click there, just like the worst place possible. And so I'm going to get a replacement, but otherwise flat, centered, quiet, very nice. So just if you're going to get this, just check it out. Make sure everything is perfect before the window closes for a return. I just love this album. I am thrilled to get a new edition of this. If you are interested in this, please check it out on streaming. If you'd like to order it, please check out the link in the description box below for the Pressing Matters storefront. And until next time, I'm Scott for the Pressing Matters. Have a great day.